Welcome everyone to the Foundations TV. Our guest today is Tara Deshpande, who is a celebrity from India visiting Boston right now. She is an actress. I'm sure you've seen some of her movies. She's been lead actress in movies like Is Raat Ki Ek Baat, Bombay Boys, Style, Bada Din, and many others. And she's also been a VJ in MTV, is that right? Okay, and she has authored a few books. Her recent book just came out. So welcome, Tara, to the Foundations TV
Thank you
studio.
so much.
It's a pleasure to have you here.
It's a pleasure
today.
to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for taking out the time. And, going right into, you do so many different things. You have authored 3 books and you've, played the lead actress role in so many wonderful movies. And you've done the VJ role and you've modeled. You've done so many different things and you teach, you do cooking shows and workshops. It's just listening to all that, it's so amazing to know how much one person can do. What I want to know is what's closest to your heart?
That's a tough one. When you are creative, you look for interesting ways to express that creativity. And different mediums give you different kinds of satisfaction. So it's very hard to choose what you like best. For instance, I'm very, very comfortable in a kitchen because I've been cooking since I was a very little girl. And at the same time, acting is something that I did for many, many years. I started on the stage, and I love it. And writing is something that binds all of this together. Words bind the acting, they bind the everything together. So in that sense, I'm afraid I can't answer your question exactly.
So you love every single thing that you've done so far?
Yeah, I do things that I really enjoy. Otherwise, I don't do them.
That's beautiful. Now, by background, you have a bachelor's degree in economics, which is completely different from, what you've done and accomplished.
Yeah.
Writing is not at all related to economics, and cooking is not related to it. Acting is not related to it at all. So, can you speak a little bit about this? Did you feel that you had a disconnect somewhere, or just something that your education was something you chose, or you got into somehow, and then you moved on?
My parents, gave me a lot of freedom in life to do different things. But one of the things that my dad said to me was that you have to graduate. It's something that you must do because no matter what you do in life, your education will always, it'll always be there. It'll always support you. And that's very important today, especially in India. Girls need to have an education.
Absolutely.
And I cannot tell you how important that is at so many different levels. And of course,
Absolutely.
an education is not just a degree.
Right.
There's a lot more to it than that. But I've always been very interested in what's happening in the world. And I think knowing about, political affairs in the world, knowing about how things are working from an economic point of view, it widens your horizons. I would have actually liked to study writing, but that wasn't a subject that you could do a bachelor's degree in. So, I took what was available and I enjoyed it.
That's amazing. That's amazing that you created your own path, regardless of what you were, you had the background you had. And, that's an inspiration for a lot of people, that you're not really limited by your background or what you've learned through the traditional education systems. And you can just go with what your heart wants.
Confucius said that if you do something that you enjoy, you never work a single day in your life. And it's really, really true that you'll find that when you start doing something that you love or that you believe in, everything in your life changes. You wake up with a smile on your face, you go to sleep with a smile on your face. Well, mostly, not all the time. But it's really important to at least have one thing in your life that you really love to do. You don't do just for money, which is also important, but because it's your passion.
Right. Now, one of the special things we have today at Foundations TV is some of your fans are here with us. And they definitely want to ask you some questions. So we want to open up the floor to all of those people. But before I do that, I want to ask you quickly about the book that you have written. I just have, can you speak about the topic and, what inspired you and how you got into Konkan, and how does that relate to your life?
Well, the book is called A Sense for Spice, Recipes and Stories from a Konkan Kitchen. And it actually began, I conceived the idea in Boston Common. My grandmother, on a previous trip to India gave me a collection of her cookbooks, all handwritten and in really, really bad condition. I mean, to the point where I couldn't even scan them. They were falling apart. So I started really just transcribing them onto Word so that, I could save them for posterity. And as I started typing them, the story started to emerge. Uh, uh, and, some of them are my great-grandmother's recipes. I mean, the books date back to 1861. And I started asking myself, why do they eat this way? Why do they cook this way? So many questions, and many of them were in different languages, so they had to be translated. And I became very interested in the culture of why people eat the way they do, and why a certain recipe or a certain kind of cuisine represents a people or a geography. For instance, you take a recipe like, a simple recipe like varan, which is basically tur dal cooked. And you break down the ingredients in that recipe and you'll be able to tell how old that recipe is. For instance, varan is basically tur dal, which is indigenous to India. It has hing in it, which came with the Greeks to India, so you can date that. And turmeric, which is again indigenous to the subcontinent. And gur, which is indigenous to the subcontinent. On the other hand, you take a dish that has tomatoes in it, this dish came after the Portuguese because the Portuguese brought tomatoes to the Konkan coast.
Wonderful, wonderful.
So that's how the interest developed, and I sort of became a food detective of sorts.
Wow, that sounds really intriguing and very interesting to see how history and science and creativity can be combined and produce something so beautiful. So, all right, great. So let me now invite some of our viewers here today, some of our audience, live audience that we have, and for a question.
Hi, Tara. It's a pleasure meeting you. I've seen some of your movies, Is Raat Ki Subah Nahi and a couple others. Really enjoyed your acting. I just want to start by making a comment that hing is mentioned in detail in Ayurveda, which is 4,000, 5,000 years old. So I would love to actually, I'm very intrigued that you mentioned that the Greeks brought it to India. So that's very interesting the fact for me. The question I had, I think you have pretty much answered, which is, what was the inspiration for your book? So I think I'll go ahead and ask you another question, which is, what is your favorite cuisine? Which part of India? Thank you.
That's a really great question, Pratibha. When I talk about the Greeks bringing asafoetida to India, it was in Promethean's times, so that's more than 4,500 years ago. Actually, it was saffron that came in earlier times when Alexander came to India and planted it in the valleys of Kashmir. Also, if I'm not mistaken, I think the Ayurveda is among the last Vedas written of the five. So it wasn't really written in 4,500 BC. I think it's more like 3,000 BC, I think. My favorite cuisine, let's see, that's a good one. In India, my favorite cuisine, and people are going to kill me for saying this, is actually Andhra food. I love Andhra food. Ulava charu is one of my favorite things in the world to eat. I call it the mole of the south. With a little bit of warm rice and cream, it's just yummy. And in international cuisines, I think I like Italian food a great deal because it adapts very well for the vegetarian palate. Some cuisines are a little harder. But with pastas and things, you can do a lot that's vegetarian. So in India, it works really well. So.
Hi, Tara. And it's so very nice to meet you. And again, a big fan of yours. I was a very little girl when I saw you for the first time on Shekhar Suman show. And at that time, your 3 movies were about to be released, right, one after the other. And during that interview, you brought up your book that you were going to go ahead and be publishing your very first book. And so I'd like to know that how did you kept your head strong in terms of your drives and what you wanted to do next and not be taken away by the glitz and glams and everything that you had going on at that time. You could have just ride the wave, but for you to be so dedicated towards something that you truly wanted and how you focused onto that.
I'm so glad you could be here today, Ricky. I hope I can answer your question. As I said earlier, the most important thing in life is to do what you love doing. And writing is something that you can continue to do no matter where in the world you are, no matter what uh, what phase of life you're going through, or how old you are, or where you are living. It doesn't matter. You can write about your experiences in any country. And writing has always been the link for me between all the other mediums that I've been interested in. And of course, I fell in love in 1999, and I got married, and I moved to the US. And of course, Bollywood, there's no Bollywood in Boston. So one of the things that I enjoyed doing was all the past experiences that I had, actually putting them down on paper. And this book is actually a result of a lot of the work that I did while I lived here in Boston. So, I think it was easy to do what I wanted to do because I loved it so much.
Hi Tara, welcome to Boston. I've been a big fan of your movies and your acting for a very long time. I just have a question that I know that you shuttle a lot between Boston, New York, and Mumbai. So, do you have something about Boston that you want to tell us that attracted you to the city and you made this city your home? Thank you.
I'm so glad you asked about Boston, Sunena. Thank you. Boston is a very beautiful city. Culturally and historically, it's very important in the United States. And it's a great place to live in because you can lead a very sort of middle of the road. You can have a very middle of the road existence. You can do exciting things and then you can go home and have a easy, relaxing life. Academically, this is an extremely important city. It's very rich in universities. But I came here initially because my husband was going to business school here and also because I have some family here. Boston is a city that Indians really, really love. They feel very comfortable here. They love the food here. They love the Red Sox. And I've really enjoyed my time in Boston. And when I'm not here, I miss it.
Hi Tara, it's a pleasure to meet you in person. And I just have a simple question: that are you currently working on a project for a movie, for an upcoming thing?
Hi Rohini. I'm not working on any film at the moment. I'm focusing on the book. But I am going to start working on a stage play very soon. That's how I actually began my career. Before I got into the movies and into TV, I was a stage actress where I learned the craft of acting. And Nasiruddin Shah told me, he said, whenever you feel that your acting machine is getting rusty, go back to the stage. It's like throwing yourself into the fire. It's live. You have to really know your lines. You have to be ready and prepared because there are no retakes. So I'm actually going to begin work on a production soon and oil my machine. And you'll know very soon if there's a film in the offing.
And okay. You've accomplished so much in your life, but do you have any more future ambitions that we don't know about?
That's a good question, Elena. I've always had this dream of living on a farm. I love animals very much, and I have 2 dogs. I've always wanted to live on a farm where I can grow things. I love to garden. And where I can also have a sort of hospice for animals, working animals who are retired or whom nobody wants, a place where animals can heal. And it's a pretty big dream because, it means you have to devote a very large part of your life to that. So I'm working on it, and I'm hoping that it comes true. So that's a future ambition, yeah.
Hello, Tara. Boston is a very vibrant expat Indian community. Given the fact that you have done so much, do you have any plans surrounding an activity in Boston itself?
Thanks for the question, Praveen. I'm always really happy to come back to Boston. I miss it when I'm not here. I'm hoping that I can do some kind of like live cooking show in Boston because I know, I taught almost 3,000 or 4,000 students when I lived here because I did 3 or 4 classes a week. And I would love, and I know there's a great deal of interest in Indian food in Boston. So I would love to come here and do more of those sessions and maybe tape them and put them online or something. Or actually the best part is working hands-on with people because then you learn from them and you also teach them a little bit at the same time. So I'd love to come back to Boston and do something like that.
Excellent, excellent. So these are all wonderful questions. Thank you, our audience, for being here today and asking such wonderful questions. As well as these are great answers. I think they just kind of told a story. No, no, you did great. You did great. Absolutely. And just before we end the interview, I do want to, just tell you the sense that I got, just knowing you, and for a little bit of time that I did really interact with you. You have a very positive and a very composed aura around you, which you do. I'm sure
Still
this is
jet
not.
lag.
I'm sure that I'm not the first person telling you that. You feel like you're very sincere to whatever you do, and you have passions in life, and you have dreams, and you follow them, and you have a very positive energy that keeps you going. It seems that's what keeps. But what I want to hear from you, that's my interpretation. But I want to hear from you, and if there's a message to our audience and our viewers. Any inspirational message or anything that you would like to convey to them if they have a dream, what should they do about it?
Um, while researching this book, I learned a lot while researching this book about India. One of the things that I learned is that really our beauty lies in our diversity. We have so many wonderful cuisines in India, and they're all created by people. And just as we can sit across the table with so many different kinds of people and eat different kinds of food, I think it's a diversity that we should really respect and value and cherish. And the other thing that I also learned is that we are among the few food cultures left globally that cooks at home more than we eat out. And that's a very important quality because it keeps the family together. Eating around a table, cooking at home, even if it's not every day, but maybe once or twice a week, cooking for your family, it's a great sign of love. You share that with your families. In many cultures today, people don't do that anymore. And I know that women are going out and working in the workforce today, and maybe men should therefore start cooking a little bit more. But we should really, I think, keep our families together by cooking together and eating around that table together. It's something that I really got a lot out of growing up. So I think maybe
That's a very, very valuable thing. Absolutely. In today's world where everybody is surrounded with electronic gadgets, and most of the times family times include, texting to each other. But I think this has its own value that we all need to hold on to. So that's a beautiful message indeed. So before we end our video, I would like to thank a few people. The beautiful set that you see, which has been created by Rohini from Marigold. She has designed and set this up. And the outfit that I'm wearing is from Smita's Boutique. So we do have two sponsors for this video. Thank you very much to our sponsors. Thanks for our audience. And thank you, Tara, for being with us.